Welcome here to an all-new Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora special, coming to you from the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you here on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York, on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse, and their drive-through location right by the airport, and on their double-decker cafe location at 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. You are here on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. And of course, we thank you for being here on all of our outlets. Of course, after the shows go live, you can check out the archives, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Podvine, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, and so on and so forth. Many a place to go to. So many of them. Don't yawn. You're going to have to start saying them yourself. So you'll find us on all of those. I want to thank all of our incredible partners. We appreciate you being here where sports meets that thing called life. Today's special is going to feature picture-in-picture with my brother, Jason Lucas. He is the father of my nephew, Carter, up in heaven, and my nieces, Carly and Gracie. He is also someone that's been in the public relations world. He's been inside of an organization when it comes to sports, multiple, and he's also been on the media side. So he knows a thing or two about a thing or two. He's also a giant UCF fan, and we'll be talking about the good, the bad, and the fugly of the college football season. We'll get into his UCF, my Syracuse Orange, name, image, and likeness, and how him and I called this thing the day before, the day before, the day before, the day before, the month before, the year before that it happened. So we're more than happy to talk with you about that. NIL, you're not getting it right. We'll talk about it as we go. Jason, how are you, sir?
Good, man. It's always good to be here with the king of Cafe Kubal, the king of Chick-fil-A, man. Good to see you, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I appreciate it. Got my candle here from Witty Wicks, it's a mood-setting candle. It also helps out my allergies, and it gets to sit right here and brighten up the day. I always say if there's something bad going on with a team that I like, this is a place for me to bring my pain, write it on a thing, and put it in. And if there's something good, then it's like a little candlelit vigil. So, whether a team is living or dying, my candle is always here. And I guess we'll start there with the Syracuse Orange. I'd love to get your thoughts from the outside looking in. A season that started so well at 6-0, turned into a very tough second half of the season. A lot of injuries happen. I got respect for the guys. They know that. Love them and appreciate them and respect them. There's been some things that have happened. Clemson's game, I don't think that Clemson beat them. I think Syracuse beat themselves. Notre Dame beat them with a three-headed running back. I said Florida State would do the same thing, and they did. The difference between Notre Dame and Florida State, Notre Dame has power, Florida State has power and speed. So they have their little gazelle defensive lineman, 300 pounds, running around like they're in some ballet nutcracker thing and weigh 87 pounds. So I'd love to get your thoughts on Syracuse football, a bowl team, but a team that's had some second half adversity.
Yeah, hey, you're in bowl season, so that's awesome. Definitely was tuned in for the 6-0 start and watched a lot of that Clemson game and thought the same thing you did, that they more beat themselves than anything. And was watching earlier when you were speaking to Coach Babers and him talking about how COVID affected the team and almost not even finishing the 2020 season. So I didn't even know that. I don't know if you knew that, but I didn't even know that. So that's pretty crazy, man. And at least things are kind of going the right direction up there. You're not winning 2 or 3 games. You're winning at least half your games. That's a good sign that things are starting to turn around.
Yeah, and he talked about, and I appreciate, and I had some people respond to it about the New York State thing, that New York State, because high schools weren't able to play and this, that, and the other, that really affected them too. And, being in a state that was so anti do anything, wear your mask and don't go outside and don't open your business and all that stuff. I mean, for him to talk about that, I thought it was a good thing, to give that angle and, to say, hey, our state suffered, kids couldn't play. And I know a kid who specifically was affected by it here in our community, Daniel Booby Santiago. He was recruited by many teams in and out of the quote unquote Power Five. He was recruited by the Ivy League. He was recruited by the FBS and the FCS. And he got his recruitment started when he left Central New York he was at Utica Proctor in Utica, New York, and he left during COVID so he could play. He went to Horizon in Arizona. He played. They won a ton of games. He got his first offer was from Arizona. He got offered from Yale. He got offers from Army and Air Force and San Diego State and so on, and Buffalo and so on and so forth. And he eventually ultimately decided to go to the FCS. And people thought, why would you go to the FCS when you have all these FBS offers? Well, he wanted to be on a team that showed him love. He said he was recruited by a lot. Him and I were together all through the process. 8 days before his first offer, he came on the show. And I said to Daniel, I said, I feel good. I said, I feel like I know it's coming. I feel like it's coming. I'm excited for it to happen. 8 days later, he got his first offer. And every time he got an offer or something big happened, he would send me a text message any time of the day and would have the bat signal. And if the bat signal went up, it meant that him and I needed to talk. And people can go back on youtube.com/wakeupcall.dt. You can check our Facebook as well and go see all the interviews I did with Daniel from the beginning of the beginning. He ultimately decided on Holy Cross, and his dad even told me, he said, why Holy Cross? FCS team, you got these other offers. He said, Dad, no one showed him more love. And he went to an event with his family, and the kids that had committed were there, and prospective student athletes were there. And they thought, okay, they'll spend a couple minutes with us because we're already committed. He said the coach sat down, talked to his son for like 20 minutes. Even though there's other guys there for them to recruit and guys that they wanted, they still treated Daniel with respect. He decided to go there knowing that they've won, that they have a path to the playoff, and that he was loved and respected by the coaches. And in his first season as a true freshman, albeit a learning year for him, the team's 6-0 in the Patriot League, the only team in the history of the Patriot League that's won 4 consecutive outright regular season titles in the conference. The team is 11-0, and he is in the FCS playoffs of 24 teams for Division I AA, and in the top 8, which means they have a bye week and they get to start the playoffs off at home. And they beat FBS Buffalo, and they beat Yale, and they beat Harvard, all these teams that recruited him. So he got to see them all again. So he's having a terrific season, and he is an example of guys that had to leave the state just so they could play, as Dino was talking about.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. You know, I mean, in Florida during COVID, we just put the masks on and they limited how many people could be at the games and limited the amount of people that could be standing around in certain areas. But other than that, like, it was business as usual, and got to do my job as usual covering games on Friday nights.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people in the past couple of years and even now have decided to move to Florida and Texas where, freedom is free and things like that. I do joke with people, but I mean this in a very serious sense. I said, when I go to the polls this year, I'm going to be voting on a lot of topics. Most importantly, who's going to bring plastic bags back to the state of New York? Because Andrew Cuomo took those away. And so some people still give them, and I applaud those people. I'm not going to tell anybody who you are because I love your freedom. But, in Pennsylvania and Florida that I travel to a lot throughout the year, when I was in Pennsylvania and in Florida, I had the same experience. And it was when somebody was bagging my stuff up, they put it in a plastic bag, and you would have thought I found a gold nugget in the middle of a cave in some Idaho place, backwoods that I discovered and didn't want to tell anybody. There was a lady, I think this might have been in Deltona when I came to see you. And she got my drinks and she goes, "Do you want me to bag these?" And I heard the shh past plastic bag, not the hard. And I was like, yeah. And then I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, do I get to keep this bag? And then she goes, "Do you want me to double bag it?" And I was like, don't talk dirty to me. And so, I took those bags home, and I've had plastic bags because, as anybody would know, generationally, you do not buy trash bags for anything more than your kitchen trash. For your small trash bins around your house, and typically in your bathroom and or bedroom, you use plastic bags from the grocery store and you put them in there. Well, Dan, you can buy, no, I'm not buying bags that are tiny like that. I'm not doing it. I'm getting the plastic bags. So I have come down to Florida many a times, and I have taken plastic bags in droves. And I've told people when they hand me the bag, I think the last person I told to hand me a plastic bag, I said, it's nice to be in a place where people are still free. So shout out to North Carolina too for bagging up my stuff. But yeah, pretty much every state but New York believes in plastic bags. And Cuomo's thing was he doesn't want pollution. And I said, well, then why don't you talk to New York City more than upstate? That's number one, but you can't because you needed votes. And number two, my other comment that I would have made to him is plastic bags don't cause pollution. People cause pollution. And now that we have cardboard bags that are garbage and Walmart's, literally, you put a piece of toilet paper in the Walmart bag and you got to put it in your thing in here. Those things rip like nothing. They're cheap as all get out. And the reality of it all is people are the polluters, not the plastic. Well, we can't have plastic bags. They add to pollution. No, lazy, stupid, good for nothing people lead to pollution. So give me my plastic bags back because the rest of the country has proven that life is still good in these other places. So thank you to the rest of the country. Shame on you, state of New York. People cause pollution, not plastic bags. And I still have a bunch of plastic bags. And if anybody needs any, I will be more than happy to sell them to you for the same price that our grocery store sells you our reusable bags at $9.99 per bag.
This might be the weirdest place we've ever gone in our years of doing this together.
But please understand that the way that I feel, I could literally stand here today, start on plastic bags, end it with I'm running for president, and give you an ample reason why our freedoms have been taken away, and I don't understand.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I come to Florida, I'm like plastic bags. I'll go to a corner. I'll go to like a gas station mart. I'll go to a racetrack for just to buy a drink and some Reese's peanut butter cups. So the girl will look at me and go, do you want a plastic bag? And I'm like, I'm gonna marry that girl.
Put a ring on it.
Welcome to Wake Up Call. And even what you just did, you drank out of a cup with a plastic top and a straw. And there's some places that don't do that anymore because they don't believe, because they say that plastic things end up in the ocean. Well, that's because people are stupid. But I will say that Walt Disney World has gotten biodegradable straws, which is ridiculous because while you're drinking, they like disintegrate. And yes, at Animal Kingdom, I said to the lady, I was like, can I get a top for my drink? And she was like, we don't believe in tops here. I was like, okay, well, you know, it's Disney and there's a lot of children. So if you don't believe in tops, you're going to have to believe in the fact you're going to have a lot of parents screaming in your face when their child spilled soda all over themselves. So it's reality. It is. Disney, I guess Disney and the plastic bag thing could go together. I don't know. But because Disney actually said that with their Disney store. They're like, we're getting rid of bags now. So you either have to buy one of our bags on top of what you buy in the Disney store, or you can leave with all of your stuff in your hands and walk through the mall with it. And what happened in retaliation? The Disney store closed in Syracuse. People were like, we are not buying bags. I'll take this giant play set and I'll bring it home and I'll hold it like this the whole time. I'll bring it into the movie theater, sit my soda upon it. So yeah, I mean, and it's funny because I'll go into Wegmans, a grocery store here, and if I forget a bag, I'm like, I'm not getting a bag here. And the lady was like, do you need a bag? And I was like, no. And she kind of gave me that, really. And I carried all the stuff and I had like butter and toilet paper and soda and all these things. And I stacked them up and I had them all. And I dropped the toilet paper and it rolled on the floor. And she looked at me and I was like, mind your business. I got this. So, yeah. All I'm going to say to you, Jay, is you think that my rant that I just did is one of the craziest things we've ever done, but there are so many people in central and upstate New York that don't believe in New York City, as we shouldn't. And listen, New York City, I love you. Don't get mad at me. We pay your taxes. You should love us forever. So the reality of it all to me is we are a totally different state than New York City. And I think even people in New York City should be pissed. But the reality of it all is if you're a central or upstate New Yorker and I talk about plastic bags, I'm guaranteeing you right now, people are laughing, screaming, cheering, and nodding their heads because nobody agreed with Andrew Cuomo going, plastic bags, you're the enemy. No, man, why don't you clean up your streets? Why don't you get some more police out there? Why don't you make the subway not smell like the inside of a locker room meant a heater, meant, some, I don't know, food from other parts of the country I'll leave unnamed. I mean, the reality of it all is if you cleaned your subway and you made sure your rats didn't take steroids, maybe that's a first problem that we should take care of. I don't know.
Oh my God. What are you guys doing up there? There's no subways.
There's
here.
a reason why New Yorkers used to move to Florida when they're 80. Now at 25, they're like, screw this place. I'm going to Florida. So reality, and I love my state and that's why I'm here. And Florida's my second home and I go there all the time and I will defend New York always and forever. But, we know what our problems are. And one of the major problems amongst a lot of things is the lack of plastic bags, which makes us feel like we're not free anymore. And that's not fun. And so I cross the border into Pennsylvania like I'm in Texas going to Mexico. And I'm like, hey, y'all got some plastic bags? They're like, shh, how much you need? I was like, give me what you got. They're like, word? I'm like, yeah, keep the change. That's what life is like between here and Pennsylvania.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
And people are sitting here nodding their heads going, he ain't wrong. He ain't wrong, Jason. You don't know the life we live. You don't know the pain. I was like, you might as well put every New Yorker in shackles. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just...
I'm about to go out to my garage and go to FedEx with my plastic bags and just send them right to your house.
Bro, if people are like, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, pet plastic bags.
Yeah. Like first I'm going to go into my bathrooms and take care of the ones I need, and then I'll send you the rest.
Yeah. Thank you. Do what you got to do to help yourself out, then help out the rest of the family.
That's great, bro. I had no idea that was even a thing.
Right before he marched a bunch of old people with COVID into nursing homes and allegedly was not very kind to 11 different women, he also got rid of plastic bags. So thank you for that. What a guy. What a guy.
That's insane.
It is. It's crazy. And I'm not insinuating that we're in slavery, because I will never connect anything to slavery because slavery is a horrible thing.
No.
I will say that I feel like other states have more freedom than we have here. That's for sure. It definitely feels weird being in central and upstate New York and like not having plastic bags and just like the prices of stuff. Like our gas got up to $5. And I'm sorry, but don't talk to me about supply and demand in Syracuse, New York, and tell me like what, like 1 million families had babies here. You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. So, California's gas has been $8 since well before COVID, and they can keep all that. But when you start making my gas expensive, I start having issues with all that situation. So I'm off my thing. I said my piece. I did what I needed to do, but people understand my plight and my pain. Now and this is the thing. They say, well, you're going to pollute if you have all these plastic bags. Now I have 742 paper bags and I don't use them. And I got them here. And you know what? I'm not a litterer, but other people that have as many bags as I do, they might start driving up and down Route 81 or Interstate 81, throwing bags out, just going, screw you, government. I'm done with this. You know what I mean? So, and now Facebook's going to flag me because I said, screw you, government. And we all know that Mark Zuckerberg cares about the important things. So let's move on. Oh boy, it feels.
There's other things to talk about.
There are things to talk about. So Syracuse has had a rough go at the second half of the season. Listen, so my biggest plus is for Syracuse because I am a positive person, and my pain is real with plastic bags, but I am a positive person. And so I'm willing to drive 2 hours for it and all that. So I think when it comes down to Syracuse, my buddy Isaac Elford said something really, really profound. And I actually said this to one of the people that works at Syracuse University recently. I said, if you told most Syracuse fans they were going to be 7-5, 6-6, bowl eligible at the beginning of the season, most people would have left you alone. But when you start off 6-0 and you go on this losing streak and people, oh my God, this team sucks, more of the same, I'm done, get away. No, because if you told most people 6-6 or 7-5, they would have shut up. And so he made a great point. He goes, all these people that are complaining about the football program, I want to know what they would have thought in the beginning of the year if this was going to be the record and we told them that before a game was played. Yeah. And it was a very profound statement because people are creatures of the circumstance and the environment sometimes. And in the world of Syracuse, if you said 7-5, most people would have been really excited and they would have been happy to go to a bowl game. But when you start off 6-0 and then you go into the back half of the season and you struggle, people start to lose their minds. And, you know, the fair weather fans start jumping ship. The last home game against Florida State, there was about 5,000 people left in the dome at the end of the game, 50,000 seat stadium. And, you know, I've always been a proponent of, if you're going to come to the game, come to the game. You don't leave dinner after appetizers. You don't leave the movie in the middle of it, right? You're in a movie, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, you're watching it. You're at dinner, you're eating your dinner, okay? And I tell people this all the time. What if your mother only showed up to the games where you were good in the game? What if your dad only came to the game when you threw a touchdown? What if your girlfriend only came to your job when you got a promotion? You would lose your mind. You would think you had bad parents and you'd break up with the person that you're dating. So why would you be a fan that is the epitome of a terrible family member? When you are a part of the family, you're a part of the family. If you're the cousin, or I'm sorry, if you're the nephew that only calls up great Aunt Rita when you need $20, you're not part of the family. You're part of the family situationally. And that's what a lot of fans in Syracuse have shown themselves to be. They're situational fans. I'm going to call up great Aunt Rita. I'm going to call up Dino and say, hey, Dino, I need $30. I need an Uber. I need you to drive to Pennsylvania, get me some plastic bags. That's what people are doing. Instead of just saying, hey, I'm here. Have I constructively criticized the team? Yes. And guess what? Those guys still talk to me on and off the air, and we're friends because there's a way to constructively talk about something without disrespecting people and personally attacking people. And Dino and I have a great relationship, and I've suggested that Dino does things differently, and there's times where I've gotten amped up and amplified about things that I thought needed to be done. But Dino also will come to me in front of the entire media, talk to me, and leave the room. So we have that good relationship. And I think sometimes I was harder than I needed to be, and I'm going to fully admit that. But I told Dino the day I met him, I wanted him to win. And I told these guys I love them. And I might be the only person in America in the media that didn't say that Garrett Schrader can't throw. I never said that. So when Garrett Schrader comes out and meets the media and he looks pissed off as all get out, like it's the last thing on the planet he wants to do, and he shows it in everything that he does body language wise and the way he talks, I can stand there and go, Garrett, you can be pissed at all these people, but everybody got on my, you know what, when I said you could throw. I said it over and over and over again, and I felt like I heard crickets. So my reality is the team has struggled. They've had ups and downs. They've had a lot of injuries. I was really hard on the strength and conditioning coach, maybe harder than I needed to be, but I just want things to get better there. But ultimately, the team's going to a bowl game. I have something to do in December. I'm proud of what the team has done. I'm proud of the guys. I understand why people are frustrated with Dino. I understand why people are frustrated with the coaching staff. I understand why people are frustrated with the team as a whole. But think about life like this. You need to start talking to people like you would want them to talk to you, because I've heard a lot of fans open their mouth. And if anybody came in their house and started criticizing them the way that they criticize this team, these people would be crying in buckets. And that's reality.
Yeah, dude. Yep. Pretty much, you know, I mean, you give a shit, right? That's why you're there till the end. You care. And that's why you criticize, because you freaking care. You know, it's the same with me and UCF or the Miami Dolphins or whatever I'm watching. I care. So I want to see you do good. So I'll absolutely tell you, geez, you know, your game plan kind of sucked last week. We should have ran the ball a lot more. That would have been a good idea. Run the ball, run the clock, set up your play action passing game, things like that. Like just constructive criticism. That's what constructive criticism is. Not, dude, you can't throw. You suck. Stuff like that. Like you got to just take it easy and actually look at the game for what it is and analyze it from that perspective if you understand it that way. So a lot of fans really don't understand it. They're just like, oh, he can't throw, but they didn't realize the receiver ran the wrong route on some things.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that go along with it, and there's again, and I'll say this until I'm blue in the face, none of the guys on this team are trying to lose. And, I think people need to, really understand that. And Dino and I have had a lot of heart to hearts, and that's what I appreciate about him the most is him and I have, it's the same. And what I appreciate about Dino is similar to what I appreciate about a lot of people in my life. Our best conversations, whatever you've heard on the air and you're like, gosh, that was a really great conversation. The best ones are off the air. My best conversation with Floyd Little, out of all the great ones we had on the air, best conversation with him was the stuff I didn't tape. Best conversations with Dino, especially this year, stuff I didn't tape. My best conversations with Jason, as good as these are the ones that we don't tape. In the world of Dino, I had the opportunity to talk with Dino, and before anything, it was before he coached a game, and we were in Chicago, and we were there for the NCAA tournament, 316 Elite 8, Syracuse was playing, and I didn't even know he was going to be there, and I walked around, and Dino was there, and there's a couple other people, one of the guys I knew, and I sat with Dino, and I didn't know if he was going to sit with me because he didn't know me, and I started talking to him. We had a good conversation, and I said to Dino, he said something, and he goes, when I was at Bowling Green, there was a guy that looked me dead in the eye, shook my hand. He goes, I don't give a damn if you win or lose. My job is to cover this team. I don't care about whether you win or lose. I don't care if you get fired. And I looked at him and I said, well, Dino, that's not me. He goes, don't get it twisted, Dan. He goes, I know who you are and I know what you're about. And I know you want us to succeed. And that was the first day that him and I talked. And he looked at me, he goes, I know the man I'm talking to. I know who you are. And he shook my hand, and it kind of like, I wouldn't talk to you if I didn't think you were like that. And he said, I know you want us to succeed. And all the way through, we've had a lot of those conversations off the air and away from the people that are fake police. And we got to really talk to each other. And I think, and I only mention that in the world that we live in, because you know it too, Jay. There's people that probably got bullied in school, and any little ounce of control or power, they use it. I have worked with high school teams, college teams, and professional teams. I have worked with businesses that are known worldwide. There's certain people that I've worked with that I look at them and I go, wow, you only have this job because you like saying no, you hate people, and you love controlling people and scaring people. And those people, to me, I'm never going to wish anybody gets fired. I'm just going to say those people need to be put in check, and someone needs to walk up to them and say, hey, if you want to keep your job, you need to respect the good people, stop promoting the bad people, and stop controlling people and enjoying the fact that you can puppet people and dangle things like carrots in front of them. I've worked with a lot of organizations, and I can tell you the worst one, because the worst one isn't like all the other ones. And I know that you and I have both lived in this world, and I don't know if in our line of work in sports, if there's a worse thing in sports than people who have a job that seek to only control you, bully you, and terrify you into losing something.
Yeah, and I mean, as somebody who's been in the position of what you're talking about, you know who the cool people are. That's why we're friends, Dan. I mean, at the end of the day, I was a PR guy, you were covering the team. We became friends because of what you're about and how you are. You're there to cover the team, to build relationships with the guys, not just talk to them like this. You put this down and then you bullshit with them for 20 minutes. Just like that. I mean, it's you're like that. I'm like that. Once I put my recorder down, I'll talk to a dude 20 minutes about his kids, about life, God, you name it, whatever it is. You know who the good people are. You know who the people are that are there for the right reasons. And then you know those who are there just doing their job, looking for an angle on a story.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that you have to watch and be like, no, you can't talk. No. But everybody else who are like us, your family. You come in the locker room. Come on in the locker room. Come talk to the guys. Who do you need? We got you.
And that's the thing that's funny is that every place should be like that, but there are places that are opposite. And the
Yeah.
better you are as a human being, the more they attack you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I won't forget, I got a phone call from somebody in an athletic department that openly called me in the middle of the day to make fun of me, bash my career, tell me I'm a nobody, and then ask me for a favor. And I remember sitting on the phone going, what part of this was professional? What part of this was kind? What part of this has anything to do with your job? Don't ever call me like this again, because I will not answer the phone and field this. And I look at those people and, oh, Dan, you don't want to say anything. What if about, no, I don't live in this world to be afraid of man. If you're afraid of man, that's a problem. You should be in this world loving God, knowing that God has your back. I seek no retribution. The meanest people, I've been the nicest to, and I will stay that way. I don't always want to, because I am human, but there's parts, but I've realized in life, and the reason why I bring it up today is because you just said exactly what I love about you and about so many people, is that you take care of the good ones and you realize who they are. And that's the saddest part of some of the places I've worked with, is that they realize the good ones, they laughed in their faces, attacked them mercilessly, and treated them like garbage. And those people, I don't plan on seeing you when I die, because I think we're going to a different place, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was just about a week ago. I had one of my friends from Twitter that her mom passed away from cancer, and she's constantly, I'm fighting cancer for my mom, fighting cancer for my mom. I'll retweet everything she ever does. I'll retweet it. I've donated to her. She personally sought me out and like DM'd me and said, "Hey, I really appreciate you. People like you actually make me want to work harder." And I said to her, "Listen, I just look for positive people in my life. If you're a positive person, I'm going to gravitate towards you, and that's where I'm going to be."
Yeah.
And that's always how I'm going to be. I'm around positive people, and that's who I want to be around. I don't want negativity. I'm at a certain age in my life where negativity and drama are just, no, thank you, no more. I just want to be around positive people who are trying to spread love, because that's what I'm trying to do every day too.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's really, I bring it up to people, today, because I want you to know you're not the only person going through a tough time with a boss or a coworker or something you're trying to get done, and gatekeeper or whatever. I think people always ask the question, why do bad things happen to good people? My response to that is, bad things happen to everybody. It's just when they happen to good people, you feel bad. When they happen to bad people, a lot of people don't feel bad, or they don't pay attention to it. So, I can't tell you how many people have said to me, I can't believe somebody treats you like that. I can't believe you have to do something like that. Do they know you? Do they know who you are? Do they know how you care? And I feel the same way about other people. It's not just me. It's when I see other people go through it. And the reality of today, like I said, as always on my show, it's not a witch hunt, and it's not to attack anybody. I don't name names for a reason. I don't personally attack. It's not who I am. I bring it up because at 37 years old, as you were talking, Jay, about, how old we are and this, that, at 37 years old, if you disrespect me to my face or behind my back, I don't want to deal with you at all. And if we've known each other for over a decade and you disrespected me from the jump, and I tried to be the bigger person, and now after all these years, you're bringing it back for some type of sequel, I look at stuff like that and I'm just like, wow, in 10 years, you have not grown as a person. You're not a better man. You're not a better woman. Why? We went through COVID together. We went through being locked in the house together. We went through losing over 1 million people on this planet together. Cancer happens. All these things happen. And you still are a mean person. And one of the things that I never realized growing up and caused me so much pain, and now that I know, I don't feel that pain anymore, and definitely not as much, is when the statement of, when somebody treats you some kind of way, it says nothing about you and everything about them.
Boom. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I'm just like you. if you stress me out, and you could be my family, you could be a friend I've had for years. I just had one of my closest friends walk out of my life after he lied to me, disrespected me, and disrespected my girlfriend at the time. He walked out of my life 12 years, like I didn't even matter. And I thought this guy was going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life. And I look back on it and I say to myself, that says nothing about me and everything about him. And then I started thinking about all of our conversations the last couple of years. And I thought to myself, he really tried to get me paranoid, tried to get me to second guess myself, constantly was questioning me, constantly was putting me down, more than comfortable making fun of me. And so you look in the moment and you're like, wow, I lost a friend. And then you look back on it and you go, no, he lost a friend.
Yeah.
And life will teach you a lot of things. And probably one of the greatest gifts it's given me at 37 years old is if you don't treat me right today, probably not going to get a chance tomorrow.
Nope. Won't talk to you.
You know, that's
Won't
just
talk to you. Thank you. Next.
yeah. You know, there's a reason why Drake has songs "No New Friends" and "No Friends in the Industry."
Hey,
And
thank you. Next is a song too.
yeah, I won't forget Drake's "No Friends in the Industry." My brother's been my brothers, and you know, and not that I don't make new friends because I do, but you know, it's funny, and people laugh when I say this because it's Britney Spears, but Britney Spears made a song years and years ago. And in the song, she said, in a room full of people, like in a room full of thousands of people, I feel so lonely. And I got into the media. And when she said that, I thought about when I went to the Big East tournament 9 years ago. And I walked into a room full of about 300 media. And there were people there from Syracuse. And I think one person said hello. And I stood in that room that day and I thought to myself, in a room full of people, in a room full of my peers in my line of work, there's no friends here. And it made me think of her song, and it made me think about when you build your brand, you build your business, you make your money, you build an empire, people think, wow, you got everybody. But the reality is, if you talk to most people in the entertainment industry in any respect, most of our people are not in the industry.
No, no, not them chill people, but you know, sometimes you get lucky and find them, and that's who your friends are.
Yeah, you know, you find those people in it, but I tell people all the time, you know, it's you got to keep you keep your family close, and most of my more than half of my family is not my blood. So,
Yeah.
and that's no disrespect to the blood that I have. It's the respect to the people in my life that didn't have to be here, but they chose to. People that show up on Thanksgiving because they love you, not because their mom told them they had to. So, you know, I've had first cousins walk out of my life with no good reason. And I've had total strangers 3-4 years ago walk into my life, and they're the people that I trust. And it was funny. I asked one of my buddies recently, I go, if I was ever in jail, would you bail me out? Didn't even think. He goes, yep. And I was like, you know what? Those are the people that you fight for.
Too pretty
And
for that, Dan.
what'd you say?
You're too pretty to be in there. We got to get you out.
I'm way too pretty to be in jail. I'd be up there like Spider-Man holding on to things. Now, my mom did say, my mom was like, you know, there is a Hulk in you. She's like, there is a Hulk in you. And there is. And, you know, I don't let him out. So maybe if I was in jail, but that's just not, it's not who I am. I'm not an angry person. So, you know, it's not what I'm about. But I know there's been times, there's one time in Wegmans, and there's all this stuff going on. And I remember thinking, like, if somebody hits my heel with their cart, I'm going to turn green. My pants are going to rip off, and I'm finally going to do it. Because I was in that place. I was in that place where, like, it was like, say something else. But, like, we
no
all
plastic bags.
no more plastic bags. What? And so, and I'm going to full disclosure this. I went into Walmart when they still had plastic bags, and I filled up a cart. I had like 30 bags. They're like, how many bags did you use? I hit 0 and I left. So,
I'm out.
I was like, you got enough money, Wally World. And
Yeah,
and
no
by and
kidding.
Wegmans charges you, but Target doesn't charge you for bags. Kohl's doesn't charge you for bags, and they're durable. Wegmans bags suck now. Walmart's bags are, you might as well just try to put everything together with bubble gum you find on the ground. So that's Walmart today. And Walmart, listen, there's a lot of good things that you have, but your bags are cheap. And if I asked you that flat out with the cameras off, I know you'd agree with me. So it's just reality. Do better, Walmart. That's all I'm saying. Like, Dan, Walmart's never going to be a sponsor. I can't have sponsors who bags rip. That name is connected to my name. So,
There goes Family Dollar.
yeah, it's like, you know what? Kohl's, Target, hit me up because your bags are beautiful and you don't ask me how much. There's no thing at the end where Target's like, how many bags did you put? Because number one, I'm going into Target. I'm spending my gas, my time, my energy, my miles. I get into Target. I'm buying my stuff with my money. I'm bagging my own groceries. How dare you throughout that entire process go, now you got to pay for the bag. I bag my own groceries. You got to pay me to be here. I did the work. So that was my kind of thing with Walmart. I was like, I'm not telling anybody, but Wegmans has a floater and they stand by you and you bag your own stuff.
Yep.
And so you're feeling like, okay, I got to say that I got 2 bags here because this 16-year-old girl is going to run and tattle and tell somebody. And then the manager's going to go, Mr. Tortora, you owe us 10 cents. No, I don't. You owe me a better America.
Oh my God.
So tell me about UCF. What are your thoughts this season?
Man, it's just, I mean, it's like everything else with UCF. You come into the season and you look at the schedule and you go, okay, we shouldn't lose this game. We should be, 11-1, 10-2 at the worst. And then, you sit where they are now with the losses that they have, and you wonder what could have been. You wonder what could have been, because even being ranked in the top 25, it's like, okay, but we have these losses. How in the world? Like, okay, so we got some brand recognition, and that's great. We've got a quarterback controversy between John Rice Plumlee and the backup kid that they bring in here and there that everybody gets all excited about. And then, I mean, we have 3 of the best running backs in the country probably, and we don't use them enough. We want Plumlee to throw the ball 20, 25 times a game. And it causes a huge problem when you're trying to win ball games, and that's just not the type of quarterback he is. He's a run first quarterback, and Mikey Keene, his backup, is more of a pass first, doesn't really run the ball very much. And then they here and there have asked Mikey when he comes in to run the ball. So it makes you as a fan watching kind of second guess, what goes into the game planning when you're playing against Navy and you're not going to run the ball right back down their throat, knowing that their D line is much smaller than our offensive line. And we have Bowser, RJ Harvey, and Johnny Richardson, 3 of the strongest running backs probably in the country. And we don't run the ball against them. And we force the ball down the field and end up punting way too much. And when you play Navy, you have to score almost every time you get the ball, or you're going to lose. And exactly what happened.
You brought up Johnny Richardson, and I talked to Isaiah Bowser going into the season. I spoke with him about this team and this stable of running backs. When him and I had the opportunity to talk, he spoke very highly of Johnny Richardson, who hails from Lake Wales, Florida. And this season, though, and especially a lot of games here, we're looking back to October 5th, 3 carries. October 13th, 5 carries. October 22nd, 1 carry. Multiple games with 1 carry. 1 carry against Navy.
Man.
What'd you say?
He's been a forgotten man because of RJ Harvey coming back from the ACL and being a strong running back.
We heard all this stuff about Johnny Richardson, but 1 carry, 3 carries, 1 carry, 5 carries, 1 carry, 5 carries, 3 carries. He only had 1 game this season early on against FAU where he had double-digit carries. So your thoughts on Johnny Richardson becoming a ghost on the offense and RJ Harvey being one of the guys that they've leaned on more coming back from injury, as you said, averaging for, the majority of the season over 7 yards a carry.
Yeah, I mean, RJ has really shown himself to be a beast in that backfield. And as far as Johnny goes, I mean, he's an athlete. He's probably a 4.3 guy. He runs fast as hell. He's the kind of guy that you want to get outside, and they try to force him up the middle a lot, and what you do with running backs. But instead of having him go outside almost every time he's going to get the ball, they'll bring him in and go, okay, go up the middle, Johnny, and then he gets stuffed because he's just a little scat back is what they call him. So for him not to be able to, be a part of the offense very much the last few weeks because they're just using him in the running back role instead of trying to use him in a role where he's catching the football or doing things that are outside one-on-one where he can use his speed and win. They're not doing it.
Yeah, and looking at this and seeing this team, I mean, over 25 rushing touchdowns this season. RJ Harvey, Isaiah Bowser getting involved with that. Bowser with double-digit touchdowns on the ground. John Rice Plumlee getting involved himself. The only person that has more carries than Plumlee is Bowser. So what have you thought about Bowser's play?
I think, early in the season, Bowser kind of became a ghost, and it was RJ's emergence and RJ suddenly being like the starting running back and getting most of the work. I think a lot of people coming into the season expected Bowser to be the one that was going to be that workhorse guy that was going to get 20, 25 carries a game. And I don't even think he's averaging that many at this point. He's just kind of come on the last few games where they've used that wild Bowser formation more, where they snap him the ball in the red zone and inside the 5. And he's gotten pretty good success with it. Even in the Tulane game, he threw a pass out of it, which went for a touchdown. And he also threw a deep pass to Plumlee that actually Plumlee hurt his shoulder on the play. So that's been a factor the last couple of weeks, and it was a big thing that Gus Malzahn was saying, that Plumlee's got a shoulder injury now, and it's his throwing shoulder. And so he kind of actually talked himself into a corner because the last week we threw the ball a ton, but then he said he hurt his shoulder in the game before. So why, number one, why was he starting? And number two, why'd you throw the ball so much if his arm was hurt?
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, running the ball has been a strength. Why not use it, especially against a Navy team? Of the losses that UCF's had this season, Louisville, Navy, East Carolina, which one's the worst in your opinion, and how do you assess those losses?
I think, Navy's probably the most tragic one. I mean, I think we're a 20+ point favorite going into that game. It's Navy. You're bigger than them, stronger than them, faster than them. You should be able to run the football over them all day long. Stop their offense enough to where they don't score a ton of points, which we did do. Defense actually had a great second half, only let up 3 points because the offense had fumbled in the red zone. So, defense I thought did enough. Offense just could not get it going. Mikey Keene comes in the second half because of that shoulder injury to Plumlee. Takes the first drive down, scores. Nothing the rest of the game. I don't even know if they got more than 3 first downs the rest of the game, the offense. It was just kind of a tragic performance, and walking out of there, you got the feeling like the season's over, which it may or may not be. We'll have to see what happens, at the end of the season.
Yeah, and we look at the other team in Florida where the rivalry has been UCF in South Florida. South Florida during the season, early here in November, fired their head coach, Jeff Scott, who had a record of 4-26. They said it fell below their standard, but that's been South Florida's standard since they lost my guy, Willie Taggart. So 4-26 is kind of par for the course for South Florida in recent history. And, they fire him here and let him go. God bless you, Lil, my pup. Let him go. UCF athletic director Michael Kelly, when they did this, said, quote, "When Jeff came to Tampa in December of 2019, we had high expectations for where he could take our football program. While he did so many things right, including rebuilding our culture, pushing forward our indoor performance facility, and engaging our community, the on-the-field results fell well below our standards," end quote. That's what I was referring to. And I'm like, your standards were already kind of low. So Scott said, quote, "I would like to thank our players, coaches, and staff members for all their hard work during my time as head coach at USF. I will miss this team and will do anything in my power to help them in the future. I'm disappointed that our hard work didn't translate to more success on the field, but I'm confident that we have set a new foundation." End quote. Before he came to USF, he was under Dabo Swinney as a co-offensive coordinator for 5 years at Clemson. The team went 70-5 over that time, and we know they've been a championship caliber team. The Jeff Scott project didn't work in trying to revitalize and reignite South Florida and the rivalry with UCF. What are your thoughts on South Florida and the fact that a guy from the Dabo Swinney tree didn't work out?
Yeah, what goes around comes around, comes all the way back around. Somebody's gonna razz me for singing that song, but it's true.
Justin Timberlake.
Listen,
Yeah.
in 2005, we were lucky to finally get South Florida on the field with us, okay? Because they thought they were too good, and then of course, they went and proved it and beat us 4 years in a row, and then made us. But yeah, they did nothing but block us. We wanted to come to the Big East with them. We wanted to be equals. We wanted it to be like this. They wanted it to be like this, slapping us down. And that's what they did. They slapped us down. When they could have given us a hand up and gotten us in the Big East with them, they wouldn't do it. So they were up big time, number 2 in 2007 for like 3 weeks or something like that. And then next thing you know, they start falling off. The last 5 years in a row, I think it was even before Gracie was born, was the last time that USF beat UCF. So Gracie's 5 now and in kindergarten.
Yeah.
That's the last time they beat UCF. So it's for us looking down at them now and saying we've gotten the better of this because we actually went and got facilities in 2005 and 6. Got an indoor facility. In 2007, we opened our on-campus stadium. Meanwhile, they're just like, oh, well, we play in an NFL stadium. It's fine, that it's nowhere near our campus and that our students have to travel to get to it. And yeah, we're building a real great campus culture by just saying that this is better than that. Oh, look at your stupid on-campus stadium. It's going to fall apart. Well, that's great. Let it fall apart because we're going freaking crazy winning championships back to back to back to back every year. So, yeah, I'm kind of indifferent to South Florida at this point, and not gonna miss them all that much. And Jeff Scott, the whole reason we started talking about this, Jeff Scott. Hey, man, thanks for coming. Thanks for playing. Sorry about your luck, buddy. We'll look forward to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, and really since Willie Taggart, I thought seeing when Willie was having some adversity there, I thought they were going to fire him. And they did the opposite. They gave him a 3-year extension.
Yeah.
And he built up South Florida. He put him on the map. And, not Skip Holtz, not anybody else that came after, not Charlie Strong, who I appreciate. It didn't work out there for him. It's Willie Taggart. Last decade plus, it's Willie Taggart. Willie Taggart went to Oregon. Oh, he didn't do well. He went 8-4. Shut your mouth. And then he goes to Florida State. He inherits. And I talked to him about this. I said, what are your thoughts on the Florida State team, where they're at? And he said to me on the teleconference for the ACC, he said, Dan, I'm trying to figure out right now, still during the season, who wants to be in this locker room. He inherited a problem. And they gave him less than 2 years to figure it out. I don't even know if they gave him a year and a half. And they let him go. And then Mike Norvell came in. And I said, y'all need to back off because this guy's going to get you right. You're welcome. So yeah. Willie Taggart's now at FAU and doing what he can here. 3rd stint in Florida. And hoping the best for him and the opportunities that come about for him. Because he was South Florida's answer. He was. And South Florida has.
They were nasty when he was there.
What'd you say?
They were nasty when he was there.
Yeah. And now being at FAU, coming in after the Lane train rolled out, they got a win over UAB this season. That's a reputable win there. They hung toe-to-toe with Purdue's Aiden O'Connell, who's going to get an opportunity in the NFL. There's some things that they can talk about as they step forward. So I'm excited to see where they go from here. I'm a Willie Taggart fan. I'm a Jeff Scott fan, and I wanted Jeff to succeed. And it didn't work out. It didn't work out for Charlie. It didn't work out for Jeff. It worked out for Willie. They gave Willie time. When a program is down and they don't win, and amidst not winning from year to year, you change the coach every few years, they're going to continue to not win. How do I know this, you may ask? Well, because I cover Syracuse. And I know that when Paul Pasqualoni was fired, the team was 6-6 for 2 straight years. And they said to Paul, in I believe 2004, that's not good enough, Paul. You need to go. Then Greg Robinson, may he rest in peace, came to this team and they'd be lucky to win 4 games in 4 years. Then Doug Marrone came in and had a good year and not good year, and a good year and a not good year. Then he thought he was hot, you know what? I'm going to go to Buffalo. And he went to Buffalo. Then he played his cards, showed his hand, and thought, I'm going to get a bunch of these jobs. There's 7 of them open. Nobody hired him. Then he went to Jacksonville and was put there to be on the staff. And I figured he'd get the job. He seemingly looked like he did dirty some of the people that he brought with him to Buffalo, and he brought with him to Jacksonville. And then he did in Jacksonville less than what he did in Syracuse, because this is what Doug Marrone has done. And in Jacksonville, he did that. And then you bring in Scott Schaefer and you give him no time. You don't promote him. You don't say anything about the program, and you treat him like he's a nobody, and you run him out of town, even though he recruited extremely well. Then you bring in Dino Babers. And now when the team is 6-6, people want to do a party in the streets. So for the guy you fired in 2004, because 6-6 wasn't good enough, to let's just get to 6-6 18 years later, how you said, what goes around, comes all the way back around. The school that thought, we're so much better than Paul Pasqualoni. He's a chump. 1 losing season at Syracuse. We don't need Paul. We're Syracuse. And now, when you get to 6-6, you want to pop bottles like you're going to the college football playoff. Let's be real about something. I want Dino to succeed, as I said before. But you fired a guy for mediocrity, and now you give raises to a guy who doesn't even hit 6-6. What are you trying to say, Syracuse? Do you care about the football program? That's my question. And when you're leading your conference with transfer students, and now we got guys in the transfer portal before the season even ended, before the last game was even played, there were guys going, hey, just so y'all know, I'm done. Then you had a guy that didn't even go to practice before the last game. So what type of culture are we building when 6-6 is great and you fired Coach P? And after you fired Coach P, he became a head coach. He worked at multiple colleges. He became a defensive coordinator, multiple NFL teams. He was working on their staffs. And every time he tries to retire for 15 minutes, someone calls and asks him for help. So I would think that Paul Pasqualoni, if it's Syracuse versus Coach P, I think Coach P won that one. So from plastic bags, which obviously is an issue, to being nice to people, to Syracuse, to UCF, to Willie Taggart being the saving grace of South Florida and him not being there anymore. As we look at the greater landscape of college football, I said that I would say this about any team, and I would say this about any conference. They got preferential treatment, unfair treatment. I have long banged the drum that the Big Ten has been given preferential treatment. If anybody thought that I was out of my mind, I would love to bring you to Exhibit A, 2020 season, and make this very simple for those of you playing the Tarzan Jane game. The Big Ten did not play for the first 6 weeks. When they decided they were going to play, because it was all about safety, right? The Big Ten and the Pac-12 was all about safety. Then they watched everybody else go to the party and put it up on TikTok, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe he's there. I can't believe she's there. We got to go. Then it wasn't about safety. And they go and they play. I don't care what you always about safety. No, it's not. So if it was about safety, you wouldn't play the whole season. So anyways, so they went 6 weeks in. Not that you can't assess it 6 weeks in, I'm just saying. But so they go and they play. before they play, when they announced they were going in, the Big Ten had multiple teams ranked in the nation's top 25 at 0-0.
I remember that. Yeah.
Ohio State was ranked in the top 10, I believe the top 8. I believe Michigan was ranked. Michigan State might have also been ranked. Penn State. And I'll never forget looking at this thing saying, here's teams that are halfway through their season, and you're putting people in the polls that haven't played a game. That's Exhibit A of the unfair treatment. Exhibit B, not only did you put them in the poll at 0-0, but Michigan rose 4 spots with a 0-0 record from one week to the next, having not played a game. Exhibit C, Ohio State was supposed to play 8 games. They played 5. They couldn't qualify for the Big Ten championship. The Big Ten put them in anyways. Dabo Swinney and other teams were saying, look at all the games we played and what we've done. They don't deserve to be here. And they put them in the college football playoff. That's Exhibit D. Then, Exhibit E, let's wait to have the college football playoff till all the Ohio State players are healthy.
Yep.
That's in 2020. Fast forward to 2022. And I've said it before on this show, but for those of you that maybe haven't heard it, maybe don't believe me, or are just Big Ten super fans and you can't seem to wrap your head around how I could possibly believe what I believe. And again, it's got nothing to do with Ohio State and Michigan. It has to do with unfair treatment. I would say this if it was Florida, Florida State. I would say this if it was Texas and Oklahoma. I would say if this was Syracuse, North Carolina, Duke, Memphis, whatever. Here we go. Ohio State defeated a Notre Dame team at home. It was ranked 5th in the country in the preseason. For what reason? Great question. There is no reason. They beat Arkansas State, unranked. Toledo, unranked. Wisconsin, unranked. Rutgers, unranked. By the way, those first 5 games of the season were at home. Also, by the way, most people have 6 to 7 home games this season. Ohio State has had 8 home games this season. Is it fair? No. Is it a COVID year? No. Is there a bubble? No. So why? Because they're Ohio State. They played at Michigan State, unranked. Iowa at home, unranked. Penn State, who had also played nobody and was ranked high at 13 and beat them on the road. Northwestern on the road, unranked. Indiana, unranked. At Maryland, unranked. Up until that game against Michigan. And they said Michigan is not only a top 25 team, like Ohio State, or a top 20 team, or a top 15 team, or a top 10 team, or a top 5 team. Top 3 in the nation. Who did Michigan play, you ask? Well, I'm happy you asked me. Colorado State, at home, unranked. Hawaii, at home, unranked. UConn, at home, unranked. Maryland, at home, unranked. At Iowa, unranked. At Indiana, unranked. Penn State, again, ranked too high. At home, beat them. Michigan State, at home, unranked. At Rutgers, unranked. Nebraska, unranked. Illinois, unranked. So, the only ranked team that they played besides, in Ohio State's case, a way high ranked for no reason Notre Dame, the only other ranked team these two teams have played that are good enough to be in the top 3 in the country was Penn State, also given an unfair ranking for being in the Big Ten. So why are Ohio State and Michigan 2 of the top 3 best teams in the nation this entire year? Because not what they did on the field. Not what they did on paper. If this was the American Athletic, they would have said you had a crap conference.
Yeah.
Your entire conference is unranked except for each other and Penn State. What are you going to write home about? Nothing. Why are they in the top 3? Well, because the committee likes the Big Ten. Apparently, they think they can sell the Big Ten. Has the Big Ten earned the right? No. Well, Dan, whoever wins the Ohio State, Michigan, you hear that all season long. You heard that in week 2.
Yeah.
Jason, enlighten us on your thoughts on this, because I can't seem to wrap my head around how Ohio State and Michigan, playing a whole bunch of non-ranked teams, were so good that they were considered 2 of the 3 top teams in the nation, above Tennessee, above LSU, above Alabama, above Clemson, above Oregon, above USC, Enlighten me.
Yeah, it's that Power Five privilege thing that we always talk about is
Power
part
two.
of it. Part of it.
No.
And then there's, it's just name recognition. Ohio State, Michigan, they were good 100 years ago, so they must be good now. And then here they are playing all these teams you just named. A couple weeks ago, I turned on the Northwestern game. They're like down 7.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there with the wind's blowing. That's why they can't do anything. Well, the wind's blowing for Northwestern, isn't it? Right? Does it expect both teams' ability to throw the ball? Yes. But they're struggling, and they scrape by and win. Michigan just played Illinois, I believe it was. Scrape by, just barely able to get a win.
Yeah.
And that's Big Ten football. It's just ugly. They don't really blow each other out in any kind of way. And then most years they'll put one of them in the playoff, and Ohio State that COVID year, one and done, got the crap kicked out of them. And that's pretty much how the Big Ten goes, is they blow them up all year long to be this great team. And then comes time to show or whatever against the SEC team, they get blown away.
Well, and this is what frustrates me. They say, well, Dan, the last time Ohio State made it, and they played Clemson in 2020, they blew them out, Dan. I had 2 things to say to that. First time Clemson played Ohio State, they beat the hell out of them. The second time they played Ohio State was when Ohio State didn't qualify for their own postseason in the Big Ten. As I just said, they changed the rules. So they shouldn't have been in the college football playoff to even play that game that they won. Well, Dan, we're going to show you when we make the college football playoff. We beat the teams in front of us, Dan. We went undefeated. We did everything we were supposed to do. Why is that not a good enough argument? My response to you, why wasn't a good enough argument for UCF and Cincinnati to beat a bunch of unranked teams en route to an undefeated season? So if you're going to sit here and you're going to say to me the things that were said to Cincinnati the year before they made the college football playoff, when they said Ohio State has played 3 ranked teams, I said Cincinnati's played 4. Ohio State won their games. Cincinnati did too. Well, you got to win your conference championship. Cincinnati also won their conference championship. So you got 2 teams in Ohio, and the arguments you made for Ohio State weren't the same arguments you made for Cincinnati. And now you want to tell me that a conference that has almost no ranked teams, except for the 2 that you pushed to the top of the polls for no other reason other than the fact that you wanted to, how are they better than Cincinnati was a couple years ago for 2 years straight? How are they better than UCF losing their entire staff and staying undefeated and winning 25 straight games and only losing the 26th game by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion in a game that you forced them to play on the West Coast when they were the better team? So my understanding of the AP, the college football playoff ranking, and the coaches poll is that if you're good and people like you, you'll be in good shape. If you're okay and people like you, you'll be in good shape. But the arguments that they didn't make for Cincinnati and UCF and Coastal Carolina and Houston and XMU and all those teams of the past are the same stupid arguments. I shouldn't say stupid arguments. The same arguments they're making for Ohio State and Michigan. Well, Dan, they beat everybody. You know how the Big Ten is. No, I don't. I don't know how the Big Ten is because Rutgers isn't good. Maryland isn't good. Michigan State isn't good. Iowa isn't good. Northwestern isn't good. Wisconsin isn't good. So the last time I checked, if the majority of your conference is piss poor and they're not ranked, I thought that's what you said about the American. I thought that's what you said about the Sun Belt. I thought that's what you said about the MAC. I'm pretty confident that's what you said about the Mountain West. So I guess what you're hoping is that the people that hear you open your mouth today never go back and check the tape on what you talked about a couple years ago. Because if they did, you'd be considered a flip-flopper, a hypocrite, and someone who probably shouldn't be voting. But then again, what would this country be in college football if there weren't teams that were given preferential treatment for being good 100 years ago? I guess Notre Dame does belong in the Big Ten because they get treated the same way.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, buddy. It's pretty much it. They were good 100 years ago, so they must be good now. It's really not even if they were good 100 years ago. They were just around.
Yeah.
It's name recognition. It's a lot of name recognition, which, hey, UCF took a third loss and was still ranked in the top 25 because of name recognition. No other reason. There's no other reason for us to be in there, but we've been in there enough now that it's like, oh, yeah, UCF, okay. Well, I guess there's a couple 4-loss teams in front of them. So 3s, yeah, sure, put them in. Why not? Top 25 team. It's pretty hilarious to watch it year after year. I mean, Florida's almost always ranked because they're Florida beginning of the season. Miami is almost always ranked because they're Miami. Penn State, Michigan, Michigan State, all the teams that you've heard of are in that preseason poll. And if they're not in it, they're right outside of it.
Here's some food for thought. Going into the final week of college football in the regular season, 19 of the teams voted in the AP's top 25 had 2 losses, 3 losses, or 4 losses. 19 of the top 25 in the AP going into the final week of college football had at least 2 losses. Teams that had 3 or more, UCF, Texas, Oregon State, Ole Miss, UCLA, Florida State, Kansas State, Utah, as well as Notre Dame, who was ranked in the top 13, went up 5 spots. You gross and nasty. 5 spots for beating Boston College. They beat Boston College at home. You're in South Bend. You beat a team that is now, that after that game was 3-8. They're one of the only teams in the entire Atlantic Coast Conference that's not going to a bowl game. And they're the only team in the Atlantic Division of the ACC. There's 7 teams. 6 of them are going to a bowl game. Everybody except Boston College. You beat Boston College, the only team in a division not going to a bowl game. Losing record, 3-8. At home in South Bend. And you go up 5 spots? 5 spots in the AP, and in the coaches poll, you went up 4 spots for doing what? What
name recognition?
But think about that. A 3-loss team that just beat the hell out of a team that's nowhere close to the top 25 just got treated like they beat USC, Alabama, NC State, Wake Forest. Notre Dame beat Boston College. I want you to let that sink in your face. Notre Dame beat Boston College, and they rose one of the highest rises in the top 25. And to look at the top 25 and see that almost half of the top 25 has 3 losses or more. Think about that. Think about that, folks. If you're a top 25 team with 4 losses, Texas, I see you, girl. How you doing? Oh. But I'm looking at all of this, and I'm saying to myself, Notre Dame, Utah, like I said, Kansas State, Florida State, UCLA, Ole Miss, Oregon State, Texas, and UCF. 9 teams with 3 or more losses in the top 25. Coastal Carolina is 9-1, and they barely let them in at 23, and they weren't in the week before. They let them in 23 in the AP and the coaches poll. Explain that to me. Well, Dan, they don't play in a tough enough conference. None of the teams are ranked. Hello, Big Ten. Nice to meet you. I don't understand the relevancy of a 3 to 4 loss team in the top 25, let alone Notre Dame rising up like they just beat the hell out of an SEC team. You beat the ACC's worst member, arguably, with Virginia and Virginia Tech this season. You beat one of the worst teams in college football. I'm not.
I think I have your answer on Notre Dame. I think I have your answer. Hold on.
Did you get it?
They played Clemson this season.
They did.
Clemson's ranked number 9.
Yep.
At the moment.
Clemson's
having taken a 35-14 loss to that Notre Dame team. So
put it to
the
you
agenda wants them to go up.
Oh yeah, because you want to get Notre Dame in a New Year's Six Bowl,
and you want to give Clemson a chance to get in.
And right, and that would be wrong. I will never forget the year that Trevor Lawrence went down. Or no, he didn't go down. He couldn't play for 2 games because of contact tracing. Again, preferential treatment. Let's talk about this. He couldn't play for 2 games because of contact tracing. He went to Notre Dame, stood on the sideline with a mask on. When Notre Dame won, over 10,000 people rushed the field with no masks and ran by Trevor Lawrence. And then I thought, they bumped into him. Does he have to stay out another 2 weeks? To keep a quarterback out because he may have been around someone who was exposed, and then to let your fans rush the field at a time when you said you cared about social distancing, you're telling me none of those people had COVID. Nobody had symptoms. Everybody got, well, Dan, they all get checked going into the game. Nobody had anything. That to me was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life, to say that this country is all about keeping us together, keeping us strong, and we need to separate. And what did you do? Not college football, not the college football playoff, not the NCAA, not the national government, not the state government, not the local government. Nobody during a pandemic said anything except for, oh, look at the sights here. Let's take an aerial shot. Look at them celebrating in Notre Dame. What a sight to see. And I looked around going, Cafe Kubal couldn't open up one of their cafes to have 10 people in it in Syracuse. And you just told Trevor Lawrence he couldn't play, and now a bunch of people are on the field, piled on each other. Let's take that one step further. How did Notre Dame get in the college football playoff that year? What did the committee say? What did the chair say?
Yeah, they said they went to overtime with Clemson.
They said they beat Clemson.
Yeah.
And my rebuttal was,
with Uyagale.
Yeah, I said you did beat Clemson without their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
At home in South Bend in double overtime in DJ's only second college football game of his career. So you barely beat the backup quarterback in his second game at home in South Bend. My response to that, even more so, you said that the quality win against Clemson was enough. Homeboy, they played Clemson again.
Yeah. Yeah, spanked.
And they got blown out in the ACC championship game in the one year part of the ACC in the COVID year 2020. And not only did they lose to Clemson, like you said, they got blown out. And that was Clemson at full go with Trevor Lawrence. So if you're going to sit as a committee member and say we're putting them in because they beat Clemson without mentioning that Clemson just beat the hell out of them, what are you trying to say? So if I beat Alabama in week 2 and they beat the hell out of me in week 11, and in week 2, I barely beat them with their second string quarterback, Alabama's got to get in. So, I mean, with all due respect, the last time the committee put Notre Dame in, that was their excuse. They beat Clemson and that's enough. And I went, you know, they played Clemson again, right? You realize that, don't you?
Yeah.
Apparently they didn't care.
Well, my brother in Touchdown Jesus, we're piling on because I had completely forgotten, and apparently anybody in the college football playoff committee has forgotten. Notre Dame started 0-2 with losses to the Buckeyes. Okay, whatever. And the Marshall Thundering Herd at home, 26-21 on September 10th. And they are ranked now.
In a game that they probably paid Marshall to come to. They probably paid Marshall. It's my niece.
Yep, she's missing daddy time.
So
this is her trying to be quiet.
yeah. Oh, good, Carly.
Okay. What? Okay. What happened? What? I can't believe it.
So with that being said, we talked a lot today about a lot of things. As much as you think my heart rate is up, I'm actually very calm. And I don't understand a lot of things, but we are where we are in college football. And the one thing we do know is UCF is going bowling. And so is Syracuse. Final notes here from my niece.
Yep, Carly's had a fun day. The kids are at home for Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving belated to everybody out there. And hey, people aren't supposed to know you watch Family Guy.
Oh, let me hit that again. So with that being said, we covered a lot of road today in college football. Talked about a lot of things. Syracuse and UCF are bowl eligible. And Jay Bird and I will have plenty to talk about. Our next conversation will be on name, image, and likeness. You may think my heart rate is up, but I was actually very calm today. My back hurt a little bit because I sat some kind of way, but I'm feeling all right. I said what I had to say. So did Jay. We did what we had to do. And we're happy to be here for you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. And we thank very quickly here before we let Jay Bird go. I want to give a special thanks to all of our wonderful partners on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. A big shout out and a big thank you to all the wonderful people that we get to work with in Central and Upstate New York. I want to thank Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, MON-FRI Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, K9 Camp Dog Daycare, PB&J's Lunchbox, Witty Wicks, Chick-fil-A Watertown, K9 Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, Pizza Man, Honda City of Liverpool, Avicoli's, and we are the proud multimedia marketing partner exclusively of your Lemoyne College Dolphins and your Bryan and Stratton Bobcats of Syracuse. So with that being said, find us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora's social media at Wake Up Call DT on Facebook, at Call DT on Twitter, and at Wake Up Call _DT on Instagram, 24/7 as well on wakeupcalldt.com. And please subscribe to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Jay, as always, I appreciate you, brother.
Pleasure, buddy.